Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how are you doing this week?
Doing great. How about you, Eric?
Doing wonderful.
Hard to believe we're halfway through June already, but today's the 15th. So, what? Loving the weather.
And absolutely, here in New England, we've got some fantastic weather. Gorgeous and sunny and not too hot, just the way I like it.
Yep. I was supposed to play golf for the first time in a year and a half last week, and the only day that it rained was the day I was supposed to go. So that's put off till this
Isn't that always the way?
week. It's supposed to be very, very nice. I'd have to bring a hose to get wet this week, I think.
So today we're going to talk about content marketing. And for those of you not familiar with the term, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's using original and curated content to market your business. And it is a key function, especially when dealing with social media. But even more, it's become part of television advertising, certainly print advertising. It's really integrated itself fully into your marketing effort. So we're going to talk a little bit about what it is, how to do it, and why you should. And I think we should really start with why. And the why goes back to something we've actually talked about in the past, which is telling a story. People love stories and they remember stories. So you can bombard people with facts, you can hit them with jingles, whatever you want. But when you tell them a story, you stick in their mind. And that's really what you want your marketing to do, is be memorable.
Yeah, I mean, it's we talk about networking all the time, and it's not about sales. It's about the person. It's about relationships. And the bottom line is, I'm sure that you are the same as me and everybody else out there. You're sick of just seeing ads. You're sick of just seeing emails with stuff on it. You're sick of seeing ads all over everything these days that just are trying to sell stuff. The more interesting ones are the ones that have content in there, interesting stories like you're talking about, and really, value added type things that are interesting. So it takes some planning to do this, but it's the bottom line is people these days, when they're looking to buy something, they really, really have to be confident in what they're doing. And so they're looking for information that's valuable to them rather than just seeing ads saying, okay, if you buy it this week, you can get $100 off of this television or something.
Right. And you just used two words that are absolutely key to this, which was value add. Content marketing is about giving information. It could be information that you're generating, it could be information from sources that you have found. But the idea is that you are sharing information. And a lot of people look at that and go, well, why should I give the information away? I'm trying to sell my service, my product. Why should I give this away? And that's really the wrong way to look at it. I've always stated that I give this information away, but just imagine if I'm giving you this valuable information, how much more valuable is what you're purchasing from me? So it's not just about the sale, it's about making sure you are providing value even when they're not buying from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the bottom line is that if you want people to start talking about you, you have to provide the value. I mean, you have done a whole lot more of this than I have, and you train people to do this kind of thing. But in my research, it's talked a lot about becoming a trusted expert. And one of the things it talked about was basically putting your best material out there forward. And it's another one that really interested me, which makes total sense, is get started by guest blogging. And I know that you've talked about contributing to groups on LinkedIn and so on and so forth. But it says you shouldn't spend all of your time cranking out content on your own site if nobody knows who you are. And so if you can publish on other places and get the attention of people that actually are getting eyeballs that you need, it's really, really important to do that. So basically, you can research things on LinkedIn and so on and so forth. But if you can get out there and be guests on other people's sites or blogs or whatever, offering value added content, they're going to start sharing that information with other people. And it's a really, really fantastic strategy to use. That one really blew me away when I read about that. And it's like, it was the old BFO that Ivan Meisner taught me in BNI. BFO stands for blinding flash of the obvious.
Yeah, guest blogging is all about credibility. When you're trying to build your credibility by guest blogging on someone else's blog who has already built their credibility, you're essentially borrowing theirs and using it to launch yourself. So by putting this content on someone else's blog, you're approaching their audience rather than simply building your own. This gives you that jump start. And Chip mentioned LinkedIn groups. There's also Facebook groups. These are all areas that people aren't going to be searching you out. They're searching for whatever the group content is, whoever the blogger is that you're guesting on. These are great ways for you to be noticed as you're building your audience, because again, these aren't places where they're looking for you. These are places where they're looking for information, and by providing that information in these settings, it gives you credibility and it brings you to the attention of the audience. So then, as you're adding to your own blog, when you're blogging in a guest blog, when you're posting in groups, it gets people's attentions and they go, oh, hey, this was great information. Let me see what else that person is doing. And then they'll discover your blog.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it goes right to habit number 4 from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, and that's think win-win. Because even though you're going to somebody else's site that has things going for them, your value-added content is making that person look well too. And the bottom line is, it's a total win-win. We talk about there's a big difference between going from a state of lack, saying I got to get this sale, I got to get this sale, and there's competition out there. What this is all about is what the real C is that makes success, and that's collaboration. And the more of that you're doing, the better off it is for everybody out there. So it's just a great way to make everybody look good. And the bottom line is, especially in these times now when we're all trying to get back to normal, the more that we can help each other share all the great things that are going on in business and tips and so on and so forth, that's the present, that's the future, and people love seeing that.
Absolutely. And, while I said this is a great way to build an audience, you shouldn't stop doing this once you have an audience. It's something you should keep doing. Perfect example is, we're here on this podcast, but I also appear as a guest on other podcasts where they interview me. We've had guests on this podcast that have their own podcasts. So it's not about just trying to build the audience, it's about building those relationships. And by providing that value, and this is very important, accurate, important content. It is absolutely necessary for content marketing to work that the content be accurate. It's got to be something that the reader or listener can use and that they can depend on. That's what builds that audience. If you're just throwing a lot of things out there and you're not checking if they're right, if they're outdated, you're not going to build an audience, and you're wasting your time if you do that. The content has to have value.
Yeah, basically what you need to strive to do, and it's obviously it's in this, but as far as your business goes too, is you got to strive to become known as an expert in your field where people can just go to you for the information. And that takes homework to identify your brand, who your target audience is, and as you're saying, accurate information, and maybe putting a different spin to it to make it interesting for people. But you have to work on that. It's not just go out there and go on somebody's podcast and hope people like you and call you up. You have to prepare, and it's got to be the right information.
Exactly. And also, you know, for consultants, for coaches, for marketers, creating content it seems to be a no-brainer. But no matter what your business is, you can be creating content. If you're a clothing retailer, you can be creating content about fashion. One of the best examples of content marketing that I've ever seen was actually done back in the late 90s before everything was online. A restaurant in New York City called the Manhattan Chili Company. They had all sorts of chili. It was a great restaurant. So how does a restaurant do content marketing? They put out a cookbook about chili. There is always something you can do. If you're a restaurant, you can be sharing recipes. They don't have to be the recipes that are on your menu, but they can be similar. They can be complementary. If you're a retailer, you can be creating content about the type of items that you sell. If you're an electronics retailer, write about tech. If you're a clothing retailer, write about fashion. If you're just a general retailer, there are all sorts of articles about what you can do in your home, how you can make things easier. If you're a realtor, you can be writing about how to keep the value of your house up, how to prepare your house for what comes in different seasons, preparing it for the summer rains, preparing for winter snow. Same as with an automotive dealer. You can be talking about what kind of maintenance the car needs, how you can prepare it for the weather conditions of each season. All of this serves to give your customers, past, present, and future, valuable information that they can use. And it has the added bonus of keeping your name front and center in their minds, so that when someone asks them, well, do you know somebody, where can I get this? They think of you.
Yeah, one of the other tips that I saw that I thought was really, really interesting and very, very important to do is if you are guest blogging or putting material out in another way, it says instead of just hoping that people would click on his byline, which is, website address and so on and so forth, grab their attention and get them to the site immediately by doing something. So like a here's what to do next type thing, and leave a comment and so on and so forth. Interesting ways for people to contact you. And not only about more information about what you're doing, but you may want to put something out there and get people to respond to you as far as things that they're doing. You mentioned the restaurant with the recipes. You might want to say, okay, what's your favorite recipe? And maybe start something to engage the people in social media, putting out like a recipe of the week from one of their fans and so on and so forth to get people contributing. And what this is going to do is it'll get them talking it up with their friends and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden you're going to get a lot more traffic. So, I mean, the key here, if you get people interested in talking about you, then all of a sudden you've developed your sales force and your referral force just by being interesting and keeping them involved.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue to talk about the types of content marketing there are. I've been talking primarily about content that you're generating, but as Chip has just mentioned, user-generated content is huge. If you can get content from your customers, from your readers or listeners, get them to share their experiences, share their ideas. We use the example of the cookbook. Yes, you can have them share recipes. One of the greatest things that I've seen, Connecticut Humane Society on social media always asks people, share pictures of your pet. Who doesn't want to share pictures of their pet? So they're getting their audience to contribute to the content by adding these photos. You can have user-generated content. You can also have what's called curated content. This is articles, videos, photos from other sources that you can repost with giving the credit to the original source. That's very important for curated content. You don't have to create all of the content you're using. User generated content and curated content give you a fantastic way to share expert opinions, to share what your users are doing. It's all generating content, but it's not all on you to do all the work.
Yeah, and again, getting back to the relationships, obviously people think about relationships as being face to face, but with the whole world of technology having been open for a long time and being used more and more in positive ways these days, it's so important to put that to work. And it brings me back to a lot of you folks know that I used to be a BNI assistant director, and what you do in networking is the purpose is to get appointments to learn about each other. Obviously, what they do business wise is important, but they have in BNI what's called a gains profile. And gain stands for goals, accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills. And just think about this. If you think about your business, what are the goals for your business? What are your accomplishments? What are your own interests? What your networks and your skills are? And you tap in to the gains of other people too, goals, accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills. So that accomplishment could be that recipe from the person who visit your site. The interest could be somebody asking you for more information about things. Obviously, their own networks are the people that they know that can help you out, and the skill sets, you're going to learn things by just pulling that out of other people. So it's really taking this to a new level. And again, if you're just getting back to the relationships part of it, there's all different ways that you can do this these days, besides person to person. Obviously, doing things through Zoom is one thing, but having an interactive social media site, website, and so on and so forth to pull that out of people by asking them for that and then sharing it with other people makes you look fantastic, and people will gravitate to you because of it.
That's right. Part of the purpose of content marketing is to build those relationships. Now, it's a little different than one to one networking where you're actually talking and interacting with someone. You're trying to build a relationship with an audience. What makes it different, but also a lot more effective than traditional marketing, is the fact that you can be building these relationships and not even be aware of it. I had a situation a number of years ago. I was doing a presentation for a group. I go, folks come in, we do the whole presentation, everything goes great. Afterwards, somebody walks up to me and says, I'm so glad I got the chance to meet you. I've been following your content on social media for years. And when I found out you were going to be appearing this close to my office, I had to come to the event. Now, I didn't know this person, but through social media and through the content that I was creating and sharing, because one of the things is she was part of another organization that I had promoted through newsletters that I was putting out. So I was promoting their content. I was adding my content that this person was very interested in. And that relationship had built without either of us ever talking to each other. So when the opportunity finally arose, it was a no brainer to connect.
Yeah, and that's just an example of how you are out there providing value added content, and you're known as an industry expert in a lot of ways. Where if you don't know it yourself, you're putting that out there from other sources. And so it surprises me none at all that people approach you when you're out there doing that, because that's what you're doing. And I mean, that's what this is all about.
It really is. It's about making connections with people that you can help, with people who can help you, with potential customers, with potential referral sources. Again, not everybody is going to be a customer, but that doesn't mean that there isn't value in that relationship. By providing content, and yeah, we probably should have said this earlier, but when we say content, this can be an article. It can be a link to an article. It can be a photo. It can be a video. It can be audio. It can be a podcast. There are so many different types of content that you can use. when you have to find what's most comfortable for you, but you should be able to mix it up. And the more involved you get in that content, the better your audience has an idea of who you are and what kind of relationship they want with you. So when they read an article that you post, they get an idea that you're an expert in that topic. When they hear something, they hear a little more about you. You know, they've got your voice, they know what you sound like. It gives a little more of a connection. When they see a photo of you or a video that you're doing, it builds it even more because they're seeing more of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going back to basic consumer psychology, they like to deal with people they know, they like, and they trust. And the more that they see you and the more that they look at you as a resource, which is really, really important. I mean, if you become known as a resource for everything, uh, that helps you out so much just because people know they can go to you for information or for referral. And if you're providing that like you do through your site all the time, as far as hooking people up with different things, that's so important. If you're top of mind, that is 90% of the battle as far as getting people to come to you.
Right. And getting people to come to you is the key. And they're not necessarily going to come to you in ways you expect. We do a lot of content marketing at the Modern Observer Group, a lot of blog posts, a lot of social media. We are out there showing what our expertise is in. However, we get people coming to us on a fairly regular basis from people who say, you know what, I was just laid off. If you happen to know of anybody who's hiring, can you let me know? On the same token, I get a lot of recruiters contacting me going, we're looking for somebody with, you know, these qualifications. Do you know anybody that you can recommend to us? Now, this is not my job by any stretch of the imagination. I don't find people jobs. But both the recruiters and the job seekers know that I do a lot of networking, that I have a large network, and word does tend to get to me. So because of that, these folks go, oh, wait a minute, you know what? Eric might be able to help out on this. And a lot of times I am. Not always. I mean, I would love to be able to say, you know, everybody who's ever come to me looking for a job, I was able to connect them with someone. That's unfortunately not the case, but I have been able to help certain people connect with recruiters, connect with the people that they're looking for. And, you know, that's part, we've talked about networking, we've talked about referrals, but these folks are coming to me because through the content that I'm creating and the content that I'm sharing, we've built that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what you've done is developed a very, very positive reputation out there just by doing what you're doing. And basically, it's just giving unconditionally when people are asking for different things. And if you don't know, you'll scratch your head and see what you can do to help somebody out anyway. So, I mean, it's so important. If that's what you're known as just a resource, somebody who's an unconditional giver. I mean, that's another. The slogan of BNI is "Givers Gain," which is just another thing for the golden rule. Do what tongue tied here. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But if that's the way you handle yourself, number one, you're going to feel much, much better doing that because that's the way we were all meant to be. But number two, people are just going to be attracted to you. And you're going to be training them to do the same thing just by being yourself, which is so important. I mean, you're leaving a legacy also. You're
Right.
making
You
a place.
know, we've talked primarily about content marketing one to many with blogs, social media, but content marketing can also be done one to one. We all get newsletters in our email boxes, magazine articles that we're reading. If you see something, an article, a program, and you know that somebody you know is going to value this, shoot them a link, quick email. I saw this article. I thought you'd be interested in it. Shoot them an email, post the link to their Facebook page, however you're connected with them. People appreciate that you're thinking about them and that you're providing them with valuable information. So it's not just about what's going to hit an audience. It's when you see these things. A perfect example is a few weeks ago, I came across the circumstances for reopening and requirements that were being put together for spas and gyms. Now, this isn't going to be something that's going to be widely important to a large audience, but I happen to know somebody who was in that business that I went, wait a minute, they might like this. So I took the link, I popped it over. The whole thing took me all of 15 seconds. And they were very appreciative, not just to have the information, but that they were at top of mind for me. So the content helped build that relationship as well.
Absolutely. One of my favorite quotes that goes back to really what people are all about, of Maya Angelou, and this is so apropos in advertising and everything else. And the quote, I'm sure a lot of you have heard it: people will forget what you say, they'll forget what you do, but they'll always remember how you make them feel. So it could be sending them that email with the link to their article. It could be having somebody who sent you a recipe all of a sudden show up on your website and say, wow, look at what they did for me. There's a whole lot of different things that you can do. And it's the feeling that they walk away with that makes them talk to other people and say, hey, you got to check this out. You got to deal with this person. This person is the real deal.
Absolutely. So we've only got a few minutes left. So I want to take the time and just go through a few steps of what you need to do for successful content marketing. And number one is focus. You need to determine what you're going to be writing, doing audio about, doing video about. What is it that you want to be known as an expert in? All of your content should be focused on what your expertise is. What is the message that you're trying to get out that you want people to say, oh, that's what he's an expert in. That's what she's an expert in. So you want to make sure all of your content is focused on that. 2, consistency. Content marketing isn't one and done. It's something that has to be done on a regular basis, whether it's a monthly newsletter, a weekly blog post, a daily social media post, whatever it is, you need to do it consistently so that people know, oh, your content is going to show up on this date at this time over and over again so they can rely on it. And third, it's important to remember that you don't have to create everything. Mix it up. Do original content. Do user-created content. Do curated content. Mixing it up, one, makes it easier for you than having to create all the time. And it also shows that you're not just spouting your own opinion, you're also bringing in information from other people. So those are the 3 steps you need to follow to really have a successful content marketing strategy. So we're just about at the end of our time. So Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway from today's show?
Again, I think it's all about how you make the people that you're dealing with out there feel. So we talked about guest blogging to basically pump up the person who's helping you out with that, but also getting the word out. We talked about making some of your best content free. We talked about publishing really focused things for your clients. And I also think it's very, very important to make it easy for them to get a hold of you when it's done. But again, it's all about a way to develop and keep those relationships going by adding value to what you're doing.
Absolutely. I think the big takeaway for me is that it's about building relationships and it's about adding value. Content marketing is not a hard sell. It's about showing the value of what you offer before somebody is interested in buying it. That way, when they are ready to buy, because we all know customers buy on their schedule, not ours, you are top of mind. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find us at the Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. See you then.